unknown author once said, "In a world full of critics, be a cheerleader." Cheerleading has affected the lives of millions of people from across the country and the world, including my own. For the last 3 years, I've cheered at the Division I level here at Auburn. And whether you realize it or not, you've probably been impacted by the Auburn University cheerleaders, whether at a sporting event or at an event off campus in the Auburn community. So today, I'm going to be informing you about cheerleading by talking about its origins, its transition from an all-male activity into a majority female sport, and then lastly, talking about the differences between a competitive and a non-competitive cheer squad. But first, let's talk about its origins. According to Varsity.com, the very first cheerleader was a man named Johnny Campbell. Now, Johnny attended a football game at Princeton University where he saw the entire crowd leading cheers in unison, and it sparked an idea in his head. So Johnny went back home to the University of Minnesota where he did the same thing and taught the entire crowd at a home game the following cheer. Rah, 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 ski-u-ma, varsity, varsity, Minnesota. Now, some of you might recognize that cadence because it's the exact same one that we do for the famous Auburn chant, Bada Getta. So what a lot of universities across the country have done is adopt that cadence and come up with their own traditional cheers that their fans have come to know and love. Next, let's talk about the transition of cheerleading from being an all-male activity into a majority female sport. So according to usacheer.org, cheerleading started out as an all-male activity. So when you think of the first cheerleaders, think of these people known as yell leaders. These are people in front of the crowd, all dressed up, going crazy, just making sure that they were keeping the crowd engaged throughout the entire game. The first female cheerleaders were put on record in 1923 at the University of Minnesota, where else in the birthplace of cheerleading itself. Then World War II happened, and we saw a lot of females start taking on that role of the cheerleaders as a lot of the guys were shipped off to go and fight in the war. And so I thought it'd be a great idea to add a picture of a co-ed squad from here at Auburn from back in the 1960s. Lastly, let's talk about the differences between a competitive and a non-competitive cheerleading squad. So according to Wikipedia, CBS Sports actually hosted the very first cheerleading competition back in 1978. And that same competition is still hosted today at Walt Disney World by UCA, also known as the Universal Cheerleading Association, which is the largest cheer association in the entire world. There's another form of a competition known as NCA, which also happens in Florida at Daytona Beach. NCA is known as the National Cheerleading Association, and that form of competition is known as All-Star. UCA is much more traditional, and NCA is much more acrobatic. Things are bigger and brighter, and the stunts are a lot more crazy. When we're talking about a non-competitive squad, those actually probably outnumber the competitive squads. So a non-competitive cheerleading squad, like the one here at Auburn, our job is to be an ambassador for the university and our athletic department. So Auburn cheerleading coach Letitia Dura on the Talking Tigers podcast said the following: "An Auburn University cheerleader's job is to serve the university, the community, and our athletic department." I remember when I was first trying out for Auburn cheerleading for my very first year, and I heard her say the following, and it's something that's really stuck with me. She said, "I want kids who want to come and cheer at Auburn, not kids who want to cheer in college." So to wrap this all up, let's talk about everything we've talked about so far today. We've talked about the origins of cheerleading, how cheerleading transitioned from an all-male activity into a majority female sport, and the differences between a competitive and a non-competitive cheerleading squad. Now let's end this on a cheer.
All right, Tiger fans, get your hands up for Bada Getta! Oh!